All right. Welcome in to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you so much for listening to us. We talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. If you want to listen to that on the regular, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify. When you get to review, you got to subscribe, because if you do, you won't miss shows when we drop them on Monday. Speaking of Monday, there's one right now at 5:30 p.m., which means we're live on YouTube. So go over to the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Subscribe there. Got to hit that notification bell. If you do that, you'll be notified when we go live, and you can come hang out with us like all the awesome people that hop into our comments do. And you can literally be a part of the show. It's always a great time. At Shirley_Burrows, that's at TNT at A to Z Sports. Facebook.com/A to Z Sports. And A to Z Sports.com for all the stuff that Zach writes on the internet. Zach, I got a microphone to work again, and maybe the internet connection will stay stable this time. What a miracle. What is up, man?
Yeah, it's been a little rough these past couple of weeks, but we soldiered on. We made it through. We persevered. When adversity hits, you just got to power through it, and that's what we did. But it's a good Monday. Tennessee won. Florida lost. That's always a nice way to enjoy the weekend.
Always amazing.
And your Titans might be firing their coach soon too, which I know.
Oh lordy,
it's fun to talk about too.
They are garbage of the absolute highest order. I have pity on the rest of the A to Z guys, who so me and some of those guys haven't always seen eye to eye, but pretty much all of them are just saying, yeah, I mean, I think this might be the end of the road for Brian Callahan. Sorry, brother. Yeah, tough times over there in Nashville, but not so tough times here in Knoxville. Mississippi State on the horizon for the Vols. We're going to preview that game, and I think that's going to be an interesting one. We'll give our full preview, score prediction. We already talked to Crompton on Saturday, former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton. Me and him do halftime post game here on the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers channel. Watch it if you want good analysis of a game. He says Tennessee's running it up on Mississippi State. We'll see what we say here in a little bit. But first, the permanent opponents for next year with the 9-game schedule in the SEC were not officially announced today. Chris Lowe of ESPN. He's not with ESPN anymore, is he? Chris Lowe of On3, because they have hired literally everyone in this business except for you and me, Zach. Chris Lowe of On3 announced all of those permanent, quote-unquote permanent opponents, but in reality, they're 4-year opponents. Now, I'm not sure Tennessee's going to change all that much if the league stays in the same formation, but it came down. We had the conversation here. Who is it going to be after the 9-game schedule got announced, and this was a sure thing that was coming down the pike? You and I, Zach, we talked about it, and we kind of said, oh, would they really give Tennessee, Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky? I don't know. Would they consider that too easy? It would have to be Florida instead of Kentucky? Would have to be South Carolina instead, something like that? Well, apparently they didn't consider it too easy, because it is Alabama, Vandy, and Kentucky. That is Tennessee's, again, quote-unquote, permanent opponents. And the whole league, there's honestly a lot to break down. We're going to talk about Tennessee's primarily. But when you first saw this today, Zach, now we don't know, the full schedule will be tomorrow. We don't know that yet. But when you first saw these 3 opponents, what did you think, Zach?
I mean, this was kind of how it was trending, is what we thought it would be, just because it was going to be, it's like a puzzle that the SEC had to put together. And there are going to be some pieces that didn't really fit, that they kind of had to force in there. I mean, Vanderbilt and Auburn, according to Chris Lowe, it's one of the permanent opponents, which doesn't make any sense. It feels like that's one that was just left over, and it's like, well, looks like you guys got to play each other. But I didn't think that they were going to give Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia, and that's really because I thought Florida would get LSU, but they got neither. So Florida kind of is in the same boat as Tennessee, where it's a quote unquote easy schedule or easy permanent opponents. But really, I thought, I don't know. First off, I think Tennessee is owed this by the SEC. Them and Auburn are the only teams that have played Alabama and Georgia annually for throughout the entire Saban Kirby Smart run the last 2 decades. So you deserve a little bit of a break, I think. But anyone complaining about Tennessee getting an easy path, and I haven't examined every other opponent to see if there's a super tough win or another real easy win or whatever. I don't think there's any easy path. I mean, you're adding another conference game. There's 9 SEC games. That automatically makes it more difficult no matter who your 3 permanent opponents are. Like, there's not going to be this easy path for anyone, I don't think. And either you're probably still going to play Florida or Georgia every single year, unless the SEC gets wild, and I do not think they'll do this. I don't think they're going to put Florida and Georgia in the same season on Tennessee, if that makes sense, because you're going to have 6 rotating opponents, right? I think they'll split Florida and Georgia up. So one year you'll be playing Alabama, Florida, Georgia. The next year one year you'll be playing Alabama and Florida, and Alabama, Georgia, just alternate every other year. So you're still going to have one of those 2 teams on the schedule every year, and then a Texas thrown in there, and LSU thrown in there every other year. I mean, it's going to be difficult. So it's I don't think Tennessee. It's favorable, but it's not easy. It's not going to be easy for anyone.
Yeah, Christopher in the comments asked, where was this announced? Again, this was Chris Lowe of On3, who is extremely well connected within these circles. He announced just the 3 opponents. We don't know the full schedule, although we're going to speculate here in a second about what Tennessee might be facing there. But I completely agree, especially on the part about Tennessee kind of being owed a break here a little bit. You have had to play Alabama and Georgia perpetually for always, and they have both been powerhouses, first with Bama for all those years, and then they crossed over for a few years where they were both incredible, and you just got screwed as bad as anybody could.
Yeah, sidebar there, Tennessee struggles through the 2010s, exasperated by the fact that you had that gauntlet. Like, there's just no chance for any new coach when you come in and face like Saban and Smart and you're trying to rebuild a program. So I mean, it was like 2 automatic losses that dudes had to deal with for all those years.
I mean, God forbid in 2016, if you add another win for Butch Jones, he would have had a 10-win season. That guy would have never stopped talking about that. He would have brought that up at every press conference. He would have. Oh my gosh. I mean, as much as 2 9-win seasons in a row, first time that's been done around here since oh man, and maybe he gets another year as coach. So maybe they saved us a little bit there.
Yeah, maybe. Same with Pruitt.
Yeah, but regardless, finally that's kind of broken, and Alabama's taken a step back. Georgia is still mighty, but you basically beat them last week. You did everything but beat them. And so, playing field's a little more even now, and that's really nice. And now it opens up to, hey, you don't have to play Georgia perpetually on the schedule. And as you're saying, most likely Georgia and Florida will probably flip-flop in terms of when they sit on the schedule together. For Tennessee, I like this a lot. The biggest thing to me was history there. When they started talking about taking away that Kentucky rivalry, I was like, oh, I get it. Kentucky's football program is trash, and it has been for my entire lifetime, plus sort of, except for that one little window where they had Bear Bryant as coach. That's the only good time they had, and now and since then, that's been about it. And so, or am I even thinking that was Kentucky? He coached at Kentucky, right? I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah,
Texas A&M and Alabama in there. Yeah. Anywho, so they're garbage. That is true, but that is still one of the deepest, most bitter, most historical rivalries in this league. Tennessee, if I'm thinking correctly, Tennessee has played Kentucky more than any other opponent in the SEC, and it is the second longest played rivalry, or at least in terms of the amount of games that have been played, second most games played between 2 SEC teams in the league. Number 1, I think, is Georgia Auburn.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep, oldest rivalry, yada yada. So tons of history there, and just Tennessee and Kentucky fans, 2.5 hours from each other.
Yes, the closest
Border
outside of
war.
Vanderbilt.
Yes, I mean it's basically the same distance
Oh,
away
yeah.
as Vanderbilt, just in a different state. But it's kind of in that line of Appalachian Mountains. Just very, we hate each other, and the history there is obviously a ton of fun in Tennessee's direction, but it's still a ton of history. And I was gonna kind of hate to see that go. I would understand it, of course, but I would think that would have been a shame. So I'm glad that they kept that around. But really, with the 4-year rotation, before we get into kind of speculating who Tennessee might play next year, the 4-year rotation, they're saying it so it can be refreshed and account for some teams getting better, some teams, taking a step back, yada yada yada. It's because they're going to expand this league more. That's what it's really about. That's
It's all fluid.
Exactly. That's 100% because stinking Clemson and North Carolina are going to be in the SEC in a few years. That's why they're doing that, so that they can account for that. It's going to be a super league at whatever point, 20 plus teams.
You're heading for like a MLB style, like National League, American League. You have like two cross. Yeah, it's this weird like thing. I mean, it's going to be this mega super league that you're kind of alluding to, and that is unfortunate. It was perfect before. I was fine at 12. Honestly, 14, even that was okay. Then you throw Oklahoma, Texas in, it just threw the whole sport out of whack, I think.
The day they added Missouri, it was all downhill from there. Why they did that, I don't know. They still to this day have added minimally to this league. It's really the true bottom feeder is Vandy doing absolutely nothing, followed by Missouri. But no need to rant there. Don't get me started. But I like this. I think it's good. And you look at the rest of the league, generally speaking, I think it's pretty fair. I was trying to think who sort of got the screws put to them. And I guess there's
South Carolina, maybe? Did they get Florida and Georgia?
Georgia, Kentucky, and Florida. I mean, Texas gets Texas A&M and Oklahoma. But yeah, on the whole, I think even like Vandy, Tennessee every year, but then Mississippi State and Auburn, like that's pretty fair to Vandy. And I guess if Clark Lee's going to continue to be the coach there, they might get better. And
if Diego Pavia just never leaves.
Yeah. If he just gets 82 years of eligibility, he'll be playing.
Eric in the comments is right. I'm sorry, Charlie, but Missouri did win the East a couple of times, and they did beat the hell out of Tennessee the last time they played in 2030.
Here's the thing, Eric. Don't come in here with any facts like that. Don't you disrupt my narrative by talking about things like that. No, but just in general, I mean, they stink at basketball. They absolutely suck at baseball. They don't contribute anything there.
Plus, it's not in the Southeast.
And I mean, that's the main thing. Is just geographically speaking, which at this point does that even matter? Stanford plays in the ACC. Yeah, time's a flat circle. Who really knows? But I just don't like them. We don't need them in this league. They belong in the freaking Big 12 so they can go play Kansas. Kansas is their most bitter rival. They don't have a rival in this entire league. At least like Vandy and Tennessee is bitter rivalry, but like they have nobody. But as I said, don't get me started down that road. And yeah, I mean, Christopher says the SEC needs to make divisions within. If it gets to 20 teams, he probably will have to go back to that.
They had like the pod, concept that got kicked around there for a little bit when nobody really knew what was going on. That would have made some sense as well. I mean, there's lots of different ways they could go with it, but I don't. It's a mess. It's going to be constantly changing. I think you're right when they say this, that it's going to be, this 4-year deal. It is just so they can leave it open to more change and just kind of figure it out as they go. I mean, that's kind of been the way the SEC's operated. Well, really, it's been the way college football's operated these last 4 or 5 years.
Rhonda says, I agree with you guys. The addition of teams to the SEC changed everything. And Eric follows up. I hated the expansion. Big 10 is 18 teams all across the country. Pac-12 no longer exists. We added Texas and Oklahoma. I hate it.
I agree.
The ACC is not long for this world. If you're asking me, I think they're cruising for a bruising. where Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, they all lead probably Virginia Tech, except I don't know. They're progressively becoming less and less competitive at the higher levels of football. They might need to drop down. I guess they used to be in the Big East. Maybe we need to recreate the Big East for football.
Pre-2004. I mean, that was really the Big East splitting up and splintering is what really kicked off the expansion. I mean, that's where it really all started when Virginia Tech and Miami and Boston College went to the ACC.
Yep, that was truly the beginning of the end. Good times back then. We like Rutgers and Louisville was a big game for a couple of years there. Good times in the Big East. But with all that being said, I think it's fine overall. These are decent selections, but the truth is, as you were already saying, Zach, there's not going to be an easy schedule. Period. That's not going to exist anymore. It's going to be absolutely brutal, and that can bring us to this part of the conversation: who we think it might be for Tennessee next year. Like, just think through this: the teams that you haven't played in a long time that'll probably get added in. Texas, who you've essentially never played. I don't know the whole history there. Maybe we played once or twice. Texas A&M. For next year, what Ole Miss? You haven't played Ole Miss in quite some time. 2021 was the last time, I think, the mustard bottle. Who else? Auburn. Haven't played it. Has Josh Heupel even played Auburn yet?
No, the last time was the COVID year, 2020.
Oh, yeah, that weird win on the Plains that Pruitt had.
No, Pruitt. That was 2018 when Pruitt won at Auburn.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
2020, they were. I think that was a close game in 2020. That was, that whole year was bizarre and just started out great. You killed Missouri and South Carolina, and it just all quickly went downhill. But yeah, that was the last time they played Auburn.
Yeah, LSU. It's been a couple of years, and if you add all of those in, that's a brutal schedule. If it's just Texas, Auburn, LSU, brutal. Like that, depending on where those are played. Now, Danny White got caught in a conversation where he dropped to Tennessee. I assume Danny White knows this. He got caught saying that there will be 5 SEC home games next year and 4 away.
And that's going to be kind of across the league. I don't know if it'll work out perfectly. Somebody might get screwed. I don't know. But the teams that have a non-conference road game next season and in ensuing seasons, they would like it to balance out this way. If you have a non-conference road game, which Tennessee does next year, they play at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. Then you would have 5 conference home games, and you have 4 away games, and you've got your big non-conference away game, whoever that is scheduled. Now that's team schedule into the future. I mean, Tennessee's got that game with West Virginia. I think it's still on the books to be played in Charlotte in 2028.
I think so.
Maybe. And then you got Washington home and home after that. So, everybody's different. These games get scheduled so far in advance. I don't know if that will work out perfectly every single year. But for now, that at least appears to be the plan. So that's why Tennessee, it's no big secret, would have 5 home games next season, 5 conference home games.
And it's exciting to think about, but that's going to be a murderer's row if you add in some of those teams that we were saying. I think Texas A&M is really on an upswing if you end up having to play them. Texas obviously they're raking in talent, and LSU is who they are. I think you could be on the. We'll see tomorrow night. Could be on the horizon of a pretty tough schedule next year.
I've got my theory here on what it'll be next season, and this is based on the 5 home games. There could be some repeat opponents, which ESPN reported, just because the balance might not work out if you try to flip everything from this season. So there could be some teams that you played this season that aren't your permanent opponents that you play again next season. I think Tennessee will have one of those. I think their 5 home games, we know Alabama and Kentucky, since they play them on the road this season, they'll be at home next year.
Yep.
I think LSU at home. You haven't played them at home since 2017. I think Missouri at home.
Fun game.
I think Missouri at home. You haven't played them in a couple of years. Maybe that's somebody else. I don't know. I'm going to say it's Missouri. And I think you'll get Florida at home because of the whole Florida-Georgia thing not being in the same season. They're not going to give you 2 home games in a row against Georgia, right? So you're playing Florida away this year. You would get them at home next year. And I think the away games would be at Vanderbilt, since it's a permanent opponent and you're playing them at home this season. At Ole Miss, so you haven't played them since 21. I don't know when the last time you were in Oxford was, maybe like 2014 or something.
Or at Texas. I'm feeling.
I think at Texas. I think at
Texas.
I got at Texas
Yep.
as one, and then I've got at South Carolina. You haven't played them in a couple of years. I think now you could maybe they could flip and put at Georgia and replace the Florida home game with Texas at home. I think that could also be a possibility. Either one of those scenarios would make a lot of sense. Those South Carolina and Missouri, I mean, who knows? Maybe A&M gets thrown in there. I think they put Missouri and South Carolina in there, though, for balance, because you're already playing Texas and LSU, Alabama, and some tougher teams, or maybe Auburn. There's a lot of possibilities. Yep. That's just the way I think it'll probably shake out. That seems balanced and fair, if that's even a thing in the SEC, because every draw is going to be a little bit different.
And almost any way you slice it, if Georgia Tech remains a solid team like they
are, hopefully their coach gets hired somewhere in this offseason and they're a little worse next year.
That would be ideal. Haynes King, I believe he's done after this year. And so they'll have new QB. We'll see. But if that's a tough game, and then you have the schedule that you just described with maybe a, give or take a couple here and there for different opponents, it's going to be a lot tougher than it's been these last 2 years. I can tell you that.
But it's going to be tough for everyone.
It is. And they're setting it up for the 16-team playoff or whatever it's going to be, where the SEC can get teams in at 9-3. And I think about that schedule that you just described. Tennessee could go 9-3 there. Tennessee could go with 10-2 or in that schedule for sure. But it's just going to be that much harder because one of your total snoozer games is now Auburn. Or whoever it would be at Texas, maybe.
You basically get 2 auto wins because, I mean, you can't count any SEC game as an auto win at this point. Not even like a Kentucky, because crazy things happen and Tennessee's not going to be immune from that. I mean, it's just going to be a gauntlet. And you got Kennesaw State and Furman. Like, those are your only 2 auto wins going into next season.
Oh, at least we know Tennessee will win 2. That's something.
I think the thing too about the playoff and the 9-3, and not to get too far into this because we really don't know what's going to look like, in the years moving forward. A 9-game SEC schedule is significantly harder than a 9-game Big Ten schedule. The Big Ten has more teams, and they have more not good teams. Like Illinois was supposed to be one of their dark horse teams. Maybe they challenge a Penn State or an Ohio State. And they got blasted by Indiana. And I'm still not convinced that Indiana, would be anything more than just another middle of the road SEC team. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see as the season plays out. But you're much more likely to get a favorable draw in the Big Ten with some of those bottom feeder teams. Like, you're inevitably going to get some of those teams. I mean, somebody's getting UCLA, who looks like they're never going to be good again because they don't really care that much about football, and it's just a terrible situation. They're in a bad place, and they're not going to be good anytime soon. And there's a couple of teams that are kind of in that neighborhood in the Big Ten. So, that's a debate I don't look forward to when that happens, because 9 and this isn't to sound like, SEC guy or that. It's just the facts that it's a tougher league top to bottom, and going 8-4 in the SEC is akin to some teams going 10-2 in the Big Ten, I think.
Yeah. I think if you transplanted Tennessee into the ACC over this horrendous period that they had up to 2021, you would have 10-win seasons sprinkled in there, without a doubt. Way more than you had here. I mean, I think back to like Derek Dooley, 2012, had an awesome offense, and the defense was complete and utter trash. But that team probably wins 4 more games year than they won in the SEC.
You're blasting Wake Forest or whoever.
They killed NC State that year.
Yeah. And I remember going into that game, so many people were picking NC State, David Amerson. I mean, we all remember all that hype going into that game, and then Tennessee just ran them out of the out of the stadium in Atlanta, yeah, it would have been a much different outcome for Tennessee football. But the ACC doesn't provide the entertaining games and the atmospheres, the history, the tradition, all the stuff that the SEC does. Like even this game that we're going to preview here in a few minutes, going to Mississippi State. What an awesome venue! I mean, Starkville. That is another one of those unique environments that is just what makes college football special, and you don't get many of those in the ACC. They're just not. Like game day at Chapel Hill, great town, love that town. Football game there is just kind of run of the mill. There's nothing that great about it.
It really does mean more. It's cheesy and a marketing line, but it does mean more around here. Period. And it's great. So that's most of it on the schedule. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. With the official announcement, ESPN kind of got scooped by their former employee there.
I know, and then in their report, when they Chris Lowe broke that news, right? Which is so funny because I thought, or this past Friday, Chris Lowe did an interview with the Sports Animal, and they're in Knoxville, and was talking about the opponents, and was like, it might be Kentucky. I think it'll be Kentucky. It could be Florida. We'll see. It's like ADs aren't even going to know until Tuesday morning, probably. So this isn't going to get leaked. And then Monday morning, here he leaks it right in like the prime time morning news hour on a Monday. And then ESPN put out their report, I don't know, an hour later, 30 minutes later, something like that, after Chris Lowe had already broke the news. And theirs was, according to sources, like no credit to Chris Lowe, no mention of Chris Lowe, like he never existed. And ESPN's known for that. I mean, they can get away with that because they're ESPN, but it's kind of made me chuckle.
I mean, I'm sure ESPN's sources are the SEC, the league. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, they do have some pretty good plugs there. But that's it for that. We'll talk about next year more when it comes. This Mississippi State game. Tennessee has to go down to Starkville on Saturday, 4:15 p.m. I guess 3:15 local time. The sort of tweener game. I think we got Dave Neal on the call. The old Jefferson Pilot sports game. And I love Dave Neal. You talk about somebody that makes me nostalgic for my childhood. He's kind of the last bastion of like that Vern Lundquist era, still hanging around calling games. So this game, it doesn't scare me like Oklahoma probably does. Although Oklahoma didn't look as powerful in that game against Auburn as they had in previous games. But it just feels like this thing's gonna be goofy, man. That just is the now.
That's Starkville. I say that,
and it's Starkville. I was there the last time Tennessee played. I think
was that Dak? Was that the Dak years? Maybe
2012.
Oh, that was Cordero Patterson went crazy, but they still lost.
Yep. I was at that game. I've been to a few games there. Because I had a college roommate who was in grad school at UT, but had gone to Mississippi State. And so we used to go down there and hang out. Very, very cool town in the middle of nowhere out there. You go down to Tuscaloosa and take a right into the woods, and eventually you reach Starkville. And it feels like something funky is going to happen. It's kind of like Tennessee basketball. They've had a tough time in Starkville, and you just like, I don't know, it's something about it where you should whip this team, but you just don't.
Playing on the road in the SEC is no joke.
No, it's not. Thankfully, it is not a night game. I will say praise be there, because that's obviously been Tennessee and specifically Josh Heupel. That has been his hang-up. Arkansas last year, the South Carolina game in 22. I mean, it's been nightmare time when you got to go play at night on the road in the SEC. You avoided it here. And they look like a pretty decent team. They beat Arizona State. Now, the validity of Arizona State is probably in question. Without Cam Scatabo, they don't exactly look like a super powerful team, like the playoff team that they were last year. But they won nonetheless. And they play the same offense as you with Blake Shapen at quarterback. and Jeff Levy, who was a Heupel coaching tree guy. Sort of. Yeah, no, he was Heupel's offensive coordinator at UCF. So yes, the Heupel coaching tree guy and a Heupel disciple, if you will. and this one just could be really interesting. They were so bad last year that you just kind of smacked them around. You didn't even have Nico for half that game, which looking back now might have been an advantage for you. But yeah, it just feels like this one's going to be a little goofy. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a game that we kind of circled before the season that was like, yeah, this could be like one of those weird trap games. But the vibes around, yeah, and we referenced the Arkansas game last year. I mean, that's the closest comp to this game, where it's a team you should beat, but again, it's that weird road SEC environment. Arkansas game was at night, so that was a little different, and different quarterback, obviously. But the vibe, I can't remember exactly how we felt going into that Arkansas game, but I know we both picked Tennessee to win. I'm pretty sure we probably picked them to win by multiple scores. And then that game went the way it did, and everybody was surprised. Even at halftime, you're like, all right, Tennessee's got to figure this out. Like, there's no way they're actually going to lose this game. And then they did. Going into this game, I think everybody's so afraid of that, like repeat happening from fans to within the program. I mean, I felt like Josh Heupel today when he was talking to the media, as much as he's going to, was kind of like, yeah, we know what we're getting into. We know what this team is. We know what the atmosphere is. Like, this isn't a game that they're glossing over. And I don't think they glossed over Arkansas last year, but sometimes there's a different vibe. And it's just like this thing that you can't control as a player where you kind of overlook a team because you're just so confident and you just don't really zero in on, oh man, this team could actually beat us. I think that's the vibe this week. Is like, okay, this team is for real, or we think they're for real. We're going to treat them like they're for real. They have an athletic quarterback that can do damage with his legs. It's a tough environment, cowbells. Everybody knows what you're going into. I think this team will be as prepared as they can be for this atmosphere, this environment. Look, Heupel's not a dummy. He knows the narrative about him in road games, and he's won some. They won at Oklahoma last year at night. They've won at Kentucky at night. You know, they played well at Georgia last year until the second half, and some things happened, and that game got away from them a little bit. And they played well in Tuscaloosa at times. So they can do it. They just haven't put it all together. And he knows that South Carolina, Arkansas, Missouri games are kind of looming as like, hey, Heupel's had some trouble getting over this. Like, he knows that's the narrative. So I think they'll be prepared. It's another game that Tennessee can really make a statement. You go and you beat this team, you cover the spread and you beat this team by more than 10 points. And I think Tennessee's getting close to the top 10, or, depending on what happens. I mean, I think teams, reporters are going to be like, hey, they are. Georgia wasn't a fluke. Like, this team is really good. So it's a big opportunity for Tennessee.
Devontae says, whatever happens in this game, I blame the cowbells.
Which, how is that legal? How is it still legal? I know it's a cool tradition. I'm not asking for them to make it illegal because I think it is a awesome tradition. I just wish it was illegal for this week.
Exactly. You can do it against anybody but me.
Yes.
It does set a different tone. It's actually funny. My wife, she watches Tennessee football, but she doesn't just like watch football. She's originally from Ohio. Like, she just doesn't translate. And I'll watch Mississippi State games and she'll be like, turn that off. That's so annoying. The cowbells. What are they doing? Are those cowbells? That's so annoying. She did that. I was watching the Arizona State game and she was telling me to turn it off because just the cowbells, like, you just hear it in between. And it's a totally different atmosphere than you ever really walk into. Does that make it harder than a Death Valley at night or something like that? No, but it does make it unique and definitely a tough place to play for a place that only holds 60,000 people. And so there's that. But you greatly out talent this team. Now they got a nice experienced quarterback. They had that kid from South Alabama at running back, Fluff Bothwell.
So you've played against him before, right, Lad? When he was at South Alabama, right? Yeah, when
I
was
think
that?
so.
I'll have to
Look,
look this
check
up.
that. Check those
Yeah.
facts there. But they have talent on offense. I don't think that that's in question. But you do greatly out talent them at basically every position. Even though Jeff Lebby has done a very good job during this offseason building this thing up way more than it was last year. They've already won more games this year than they did last year. That's sort of all you need to know. 4 games in, they've already won more than they did last year. Period. And so there's no excuse at the end of the day for Tennessee to not win this game. But what I think you could see is your defense is banged up and they're efficient passing the ball. And supposedly the thought is Jackson Moy is going to be back for this one on the defensive line. That should help on your defensive line. David Hobbs still seems like a no. But we'll see. As Josh Heupel says, please refer to the injury report on Wednesday. But your cornerbacks are still in rough shape. You're still playing a freshman and Ty Redmond and Colton Hood, good, but the man can't do everything himself. And so I think Mississippi State's going to get theirs on the offensive side of the ball. Period. Did we play this kid?
No, you played South Alabama a few years ago. Apparently, it was Tennessee was interested in him coming out of the portal last December.
I remember
It was
that.
one of those Pete Nakos reports. So maybe that's what was in my mind with that name. It's been a couple of years since you played South Alabama. I think it was 21, Heupel's first season. So it's been a little while.
I wanted to look their total offense so far. Mississippi State is 9th overall. Tennessee is 2nd, 554 yards per game. Mississippi State 444. And then total defense, Tennessee at 15. Now, of course, that's taking into account the Georgia game. You're not going to play offenses that good too often.
Yeah.
Mississippi State clocking in at 7th.
I think
overall, but they haven't really played great teams yet.
This Tennessee defense is a little misleading. I know that's a big narrative going around right now. You gave up, 300 and some passing yards to UAB, but you only gave up, it was some absurdly low number on rushing yards. It was like 20 some rushing yards or something crazy like that. They threw the ball 50 some times. I mean, it's like when Kobe Bryant used to go out, maybe score 60 points, but he shot the ball 50 times. Like, yeah, it's kind of a volume. And that's not, I love Kobe, but that's kind of a volume stat there from UAB. You throw the ball that many times, some good things are probably going to happen eventually. Plus, second team defense has given up a lot of that. The Tennessee gave up against Syracuse later in that game, the UAB game as well. And Heupel kind of mentioned that today. Like he was happy with some of the communication in the secondary and felt good about the first team. It was some of the second team that came in there later in that UAB game that gave up some stuff and need to communicate a little better. And that's a concern, right? Because you need depth. You're already thin at corner, obviously. So you need that second team to step up and develop because you never know when they might be pressed into action. But at the same time, those defensive numbers, you're playing a full game against the SEC opponents you got to beat. That's not Georgia. I think you'll see a better performance because you're not going to see those second team guys in there, unless there's an injury.
Yeah, I'm expecting with Jackson Moy back. Hopefully, this will be your best defensive effort. Don't give up 44 points to these guys. Not anywhere close to as talented as Georgia. They're not going to have those game breakers like Zachariah Branch. They got good guys, but they're not in that same stratosphere. And if you can stop them up, I'm hoping that this will be a redemption game for Ty Redmond because he got just shredded against Georgia. They picked on him, and it was tough. But here, talent probably a little closer to his wheelhouse at the moment, at least. I think long term he's very good.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I think this could be a redemption game for him. I think Colton Hood will play just fine. Boo Carter needs to have a good game. Me and Crom kind of talked about by the stats he had a good game against UAB. By the look of it, he muffed a punt and looks disinterested at times. but he was sort of your defensive stats leader in that game. It's kind of
Yeah,
weird, but
it,
you need him to
he,
get right.
he's had some tough moments. I mean, I don't know if that's a product of missing time in the summer, if it's a product of he wasn't practicing with the first team through most of the fall camp as he kind of worked his way back into the good graces of his teammates. He had some lapses early in the season. What in the Georgia game? Wasn't it he responsible for giving up one of those conversions?
Yep.
And then he's muffed, I think, 2 punts, one that you lost this past week. But then he's created turnovers. Like he's been there to. I mean, wasn't he the one that? Was he the one that? No, he almost recovered the one against Georgia, but he forced 2 fumbles against UAB, one of which was returned for a touchdown. Like you said, led the team in tackles with 9. I think he had a few tackles for loss as well. Even before all this, he's always kind of had that a little bit of that aloof personality, like kind of that lone wolf vibe, and maybe that's me speculating, but that's just kind of like you're saying. I mean, that's kind of the vibe that you get just from watching him on the field. But I thought the reception for him in the locker room when he got the game ball and the clip they posted on social media was very positive. Talking about him in the media has been positive lately from players and coaches. So maybe what we're seeing is just a couple of bad isolated moments. I don't know, but that guy, regardless of what you think about what happened, he's an elite talent. He's an NFL talent. He's the type of talent you need all over the field to go win a championship. And you can do that without him. I'm not saying it's not possible without that guy. Like he's not going to make or break your season. But man, if you got a locked in Boo Carter, you're a lot better on defense than you are without him.
Without a doubt. And yeah, I mean, he just has to get locked in because his talent is all there. And especially kind of like with Ty Redmond in a game like this, the talent or the offense for Mississippi State is going to be more at a level the younger guys can probably handle. And so this is the game. You need that guy to make plays on the punt return here. That will be huge. I mean, we were talking about that 2012 game. Cordero Patterson returns a kickoff for a touchdown, and that could be so massive.
I thought that punt that he muffed against UAB was just a bad decision to field it. I thought that there was some traffic there, and it seemed like he was kind of in between deciding whether he was going to try to return that or whether he was going to let it go. And I think that little bit of indecision is what happened right there.
But if you look purely at the stats, weirdly, if you were just a stat watcher, Mississippi State kind of looks like the better team than Tennessee. Now, in reality, they've played, I was trying to look, Southern Miss, Alcorn State, Northern Illinois, and then Arizona State. Tennessee has in turn played Syracuse, who turns out might be kind of decent. They ran Clemson off the field this weekend. And then of course, Georgia, who just dropped a bomb on you offensively. So I think this sort of equals out for everybody. I think Tennessee's going to run it up on offense on Mississippi State because just talent-wise, if Tennessee can do it on Georgia, Tennessee can do it on Mississippi State. Like, bottom line, that's sort of all you got to say there. And then I think Mississippi State will have the ability to put points up on you, but they only scored 24 against Arizona State. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say your defense is better than Arizona State's defense.
Yes.
It might not be, but I think it is more talented, especially with Jackson Moy coming back. You wish that you could get Jermon McCoy. It seems like the speculation for him is maybe like Arkansas, Alabama game, somewhere around in there. After the bye week, we'll see. But I do think that this just shapes up in a way that you should win. If this is at home, this is a blowout win to me. And not blowout as like 40 points, but like probably a 20-point win for Tennessee. But on the road, obviously, tougher place to play. Josh Heupel's record on the road. It just feels like the way I could absolutely see this going is that Mississippi State might even get a lead early. Like they come out, I think everybody comes out buzzing, where it's just 14-14.
Yeah.
Maybe Mississippi State takes a lead like 17-14, something like that. And then it's that's the first quarter. Then the second quarter, everybody gets a little more settled in, not as much scoring. The halftime is maybe Tennessee 21, Mississippi State 17, maybe 21-20, something like that. And it's real close. And you're like, you're sweating. You're like, I feared this would happen. Dang it. But then assimilation finally happens as the game goes along and Mississippi State runs out of guys where you don't. I could see it going that way. I don't know how you feel about it, Zach.
Yeah, I think, Jeff Lebby mentioned this week already that it is an advantage to kind of go up against an offense that's the same as yours because you practice against it every day. But like he also pointed out, Tennessee has that same advantage. So to me, it's kind of like that Oklahoma game last year when Seth Littrell, who's now an analyst at Tennessee, was their offensive coordinator, and Heupel's so familiar with Littrell and his tendencies, and they kind of knew what each other's going to run, and Oklahoma could have played better, and they could have called the game better. But when you kind of know what the other side's going to do a little bit, there aren't as many surprises, and you kind of know some of the tricks, right, that get some of these guys open, and you can still be got, and somebody will. Like, you got to go execute, and I think it's cliche. It sounds like coach speak, but I think this game comes down to you kind of know what each other's going to run. Tennessee's offense has evolved, so I think that gives them a little bit of an advantage because they're not that just straight up Art Briles Baylor system anymore. They're doing that still. We've seen some big plays come out of that. We've seen some big plays come out of condensed formations and 2 tight end sets and pistol looks and all kinds of different things that they've kind of cooked up this offseason. So I like that for Tennessee. I don't think Mississippi State has evolved that far under Jeff Lebby. I think that takes time because you've got to install this offense, and you kind of, I know with the portal and stuff, it's there's a lot of turnover, but it's still, when you have something that's been established for a few years and you've got guys that have been in it for a few years, it's easier than to add on top of that instead of just recreating the whole thing every off season. And Tennessee's a little ahead of Mississippi State when it comes to that. So it really just comes down to who executes the best, who tackles the best, who throws the ball the best, who catches the ball the best, who blocks the best. I mean, it sounds like it's not exactly groundbreaking analysis there, but I think that's easily what this game comes down to. I don't think you're going to get tricked. I just think you got to go out and play the game and do what you're supposed to do and execute at a high level. And you got to play well. Like, you can't go out there and lay an egg. You can't go out there and have missed assignments. You can't drop passes. You can't miss tackles in the open field. You can't let them off the hook on 3rd and 12 because their quarterback can run. I mean, that's the thing that I think that scares me the most is if they get out of their offensive structure, can Tennessee's linebackers contain the Mississippi State quarterback and keep him from running for 15 yards when you think you've got them stopped on 3rd down? And that's backbreaking for a team on the road. Like, if you don't get off the field on 3rd down on the road, that can be bad news. And if you can get off the field on 3rd down, and it's like Jeremiah Thielander said today when he talked to the media, you're never going to be as good on 3rd down as you want to be. It's just the other team's on scholarship too. They're getting NIL money too. They're going to make plays. But you just got to make more plays than they do.
That's exactly it. Sam says, I'd be surprised if we don't win by 10 or more. Rhonda says she agrees. I'll throw it to you, Zach. How do you think this one's going to go? What's your score prediction?
I think Tennessee's a good team this year. What we saw from Georgia, the vibe of this team, they're their own team. I don't want to say, it reminds me of the 22 team because that's the easy comparison. But I think this is just the team that Josh Heupel wants to be. You got the quarterback that just kind of fell into your lap that you needed and you didn't even know you needed with Joey Aguilar. And he's just been a revelation for this team. I think he's brought everybody together. I think everybody believes in him. And it's like he instantly enhanced the culture. He didn't change it. He just enhanced what Josh Heupel wants the culture to be. Like, he's a perfect fit for that. If they can play well defensively, I think this team has a chance to do some special things this season. And you got to stay healthy, and there's a long way to go. But I think this is a good team. I don't think they're going to go down there and do what they did to LSU necessarily in 22, because I think, that was when Tennessee really put themselves on the map under Josh Heupel was in that game. But I do think you'll go handle business. I don't think Mississippi State's going to lay down. I think they're going to play hard under Jeff Lebby. I think they'll play to their best potential. But if Tennessee does, they should win this game by 10 plus points. I do agree with that. So I think Tennessee wins something like 31-20.
I like it. I like it a lot. If you do have a score prediction for anybody watching, go ahead and drop it into the comments. We'll read them out. We always like hearing everybody's prediction. I pretty much agree. I mean, realistically speaking, I think it's going to go how I just said. I think the cowbells and the energy with Mississippi State, they're treating this thing like a Super Bowl. What is it? It's the white out or whatever.
So Tennessee's gonna be an orange.
Yes, special game for Mississippi State. Like this would be one. The Arizona State one was fun, but I think Arizona State ultimately is not going to be that good of a football team this year. This one would be a true statement. And you just can't let them do that. But I think that energy carries them for at least the first quarter, maybe through the second. As I said, maybe they have a lead at some point. Maybe it's like 10-7 initially. And you're kind of going, oh, boy, here we go. Road woes for Josh Heupel. Oh, man. And then by halftime, maybe it's tied. Maybe you got a little lead. And in the second half, I think Tennessee shuts the door. You just have so much more talent than they do. More experienced coach, more experienced players with better talent. And you just eventually run away with it a little bit. He said 31-20. I think I'll go 35-21. I'll say Tennessee wins by 2 full touchdowns and nice and clean. 5 touchdowns for Tennessee, 4 for Mississippi State. And I just think that Tennessee ultimately, this is going to be the reality check for Mississippi State where they're like, we're back on this and that. And Tennessee goes, you're back a little bit, but you're not back that much.
They got a tough hill they're still climbing. I mean, and we've seen it. It takes time when you've been down. It takes time. Yeah, I do think, and maybe this will look dumb in retrospect. Usually, you want to win the toss and defer. I don't think it would be a terrible thing if Tennessee starts with the ball in this game because Tennessee this season under Heupel has been that opening scripted drive. They've been really good. I mean, that one against Georgia was one of the best drives you've ever seen from Josh Heupel his whole time he's been in Knoxville, especially at the start of a game against Kirby Smart, and they had no answer. They didn't know what to do on that drive. I mean, it was perfection. So with the wrinkles that they've added to the offense, and Deshaun Bishop said today they haven't emptied the clip yet. I don't know if that's just him talking or what. I don't know, but
they could have emptied it against Georgia. That would have been okay.
Yeah,
go ahead and empty it,
especially on that after that fumble. We didn't need 3 straight runs, but we're not going to go back to that. It is what it is. But I think if you could get the ball and have one of those types of drives like you did against Georgia, you take the air out of that stadium just a little bit. Score on that opening drive, get a quick 3 and out, because we've seen what happens when these offenses don't go. They don't get the tempo going. It's bad. I mean, we've lived it a couple of times these last few years. So I don't think that would be a bad thing if they get the ball first. And maybe they get the ball first and go 3 and out, and that comment looks really dumb. But just based on what we've seen this season, I think that could be something you get off to a quick start and just take the air out of that stadium a little bit would be big for Tennessee.
Rhonda says 41-21 Tennessee. Mississippi Vols says 31-27 Tennessee. Sam 45-27 Vols. And he says, we scored 41 on Georgia, and this offense is just getting better week by week. No chance we score less than 40. Maybe.
Yeah, the thing I think is like pre-snap penalties on the road that could slow you down.
I think that's a real possibility. As good as your offensive line has played, you haven't played a true hardcore road game yet, and you're going to have some of that this week.
And Sam Pendleton's had some issues. He's been great at center, but he's had a few pre-snap penalties that have kind of hurt you. He's had some snap issues. I'm sure he's going to get that cleaned up, but like you said, first time on the road in this offense.
I could absolutely see that happening. You're going to have to overcome that. And then I would also say I think you're just going to get up in this game and then sit on the ball a little bit. I could see that happening. Like you get, like it is 35-17, and you go, okay, let's calm it down. And then Mississippi State maybe scores another couple of times, make it closer. But
kind of like that Oklahoma game last year.
Exactly like that, because that's just been Heupel's propensity. That's what he does. If he can get a nice little lead, he goes, all right, let's take the air out of the ball. Let's just run it. And against some teams, he can just continue to run it down their throat, and he runs the clock out. And then against other teams, he loses the game.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that, as you said.
Let's just see more Star Thomas this week.
Please.
And did you notice that John
please,
Bishop was wearing gloves last week after some of those drops in the previous weeks?
It's about time. But yes, feed Star Thomas. He is your best guy. He showed it again against UAB. Give the man the football more. Please, Josh. I am begging you. That's a show. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan, thank you to everybody who tuned in and commented, gave us their score predictions. We could not do it without you. Anything else for the folks at home before we bounce out here, Zach?
No, that should do it. Let's hope we're back in a good mood next Monday, because that would be tough. You lose this game, and I don't know how the rest of the season is going to go, because you got some tough ones coming up.
This would be one that takes you off the rails.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
Yep. Go win this game. Go Vols. All right. Thanks again for watching to everybody, and we will talk to you next week.
See you guys later.